You are now a demigod. It is proven. It is factual. There is no going back. No matter what you do, you cannot go back to your original world. Today, we will be talking about Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. We will be comparing the movie versus the TV show, and we will be using the guideline of a hero's journey to kind of see which storyline best suits a hero's journey. So let's get started. So for Act 1 is the original world. This is where we see the life of our hero before he gets swept up onto this adventure of a lifetime. Now, for this section of a hero's journey, the movie and the TV show actually do follow each other quite closely. Both of them show a Percy Jackson in our ordinary world, and then we see glimmers of Percy Jackson seeing beyond the mist. The mist, of course, being the layer between the reality that us mere mortals see and the reality of the gods, specifically Greek gods. Now, they do differ in the execution of the original world. In the movie, Percy Jackson is a teenager in high school. He is living his normal life, and then we do see that when he goes to the Greek museum, he is able to read Greek due to his dyslexia. We start seeing hints that possibly he is a bit different than us mere mortals. Now, it does kind of insinuate that this is a more recent thing. This is due to the fact that he goes to this Greek museum, and that prior to this he had lived a more basic, normal life. Unlike in the TV show, where Percy Jackson does indeed show from such a young age that he is constantly seeing beyond the veil of the mist, and he believes that it is just a vivid imagination of things that are beyond the scope of what we consider reality, and that they are in any way, shape, or form just imaginations of a childlike boy. We see the difficulties, we see how this has affected and isolated him as a person, and it isn't, of course, until he meets his friend Grover that he even feels like he is not insane. So it is a very interesting perspective of how to do the original world in both mediums. For Act 2, the call to action. Again, the call to action to both the movie and the TV show of Percy Jackson is very, very similar. It is the attack from Mrs. Dot, Percy Jackson's teacher in his school, who is actually a Fury, attacking him during his school trip. Now, in the movie, he is separated from his classmates and then has to face off against his teacher in full Fury motion. And then after this happens, he is vindicated in this idea that he did not just lose his mind, that he is in fact seeing a Fury or a monster of some kind by his professor. His professor, of course, shows himself not in his full glory, but still shows that Percy is not insane and that Grover needs to get him to safety, propelling him to, of course, his journey. However, in the TV show, it is a slightly different. Percy Jackson is attacked in clear view of his classmates. Everyone around him is able to not see that he is being attacked, even though he is. It feeds into the idea that he has an extreme, vivid imagination, and he may be losing his mind. It does not help that he does not get validated by anybody, and when he states that Mrs. Dots attacked him, everyone's response is, "Who's Mrs. Dots? No, that person doesn't exist." And then he is slowly sent on his way home, just as if it was any other day and he didn't just get attacked by a monster. So different ways of how this story progresses in both mediums. For Act 3, the refusal of the call. So this again is very similar in both adaptations, both the movie and the TV show. even though Percy Jackson is given actual proof by literally being attacked by monsters, he still refuses the fact that the mythical world of the Greek gods exists, that he is any different than any other person on Earth, and that he is not being attacked by monsters, and that his mom did not fall in love with a god. That it just has to be an imagination, it just has to be in his head, even though he is literally being actively attacked by said monsters. You know, denial is real and not just a river in Egypt. So either way, both of these mediums actually do this very similarly. They both have their mom taking them to a new location. The movie does have the mom go directly to Camp Half-Blood, and the mom in the TV show taking Percy to their lake house that they visited many times before, and then necessarily having to then go to Camp Half-Blood. It just extends the journey of the refusal of the call in the TV show rather than the movie, and that has more to do with timing than like any difference that they actually do. I do like that in the TV show, though, they do keep it more authentic to the craziness that is Percy Jackson, where the manatees is wearing underwear. But, you know, I understand that the movie did a more grown-up version of Percy Jackson, and so that was their interpretation. But for this refusal of the call, it is very extremely similar in the way that they chose to do this. Act 4, meeting the mentor. Now, you can consider Grover as a mentor-like figure, but he doesn't take on the traditional sense of mentorship. That is still done by Chiron. Chiron is still the mentor-like figure, the Obi-Wan to Percy Jackson's Luke. Chiron is the epitome of a mentor. He guides Percy. He talks to him about the world. He talks to him about his responsibilities now in this new journey and quest he must go on. It is a more traditional mentor-type relationship, even though we have seen Killian earlier in both of these mediums, both the movie and the TV show. It isn't until he meets them in Camp Half-Blood that he is propelled to see him as a mentor, because he is, of course, a centaur, and seeing him all in his glory is definitely a different perspective. Act 5, the first threshold. So the first threshold is a point of no return for our hero. This is, once he goes through this, there is no going back. There's no going back to his normal life. Now, you can say that his mom being taken into the underworld in both versions could be considered his crossing the threshold. However, in reality, I think the moment in which Percy cannot ignore who he is or who this life is actually done in both versions of the movie and TV show, when Poseidon chooses him as his son. He announces to the world, hey, this is my kid. I think that's definitely a point of no return, because it shows his strength and his power. Now, in the movie, he becomes known as Poseidon's son from the moment he gets to camp. There is no big reveal, there's nothing. He gets told right away, which kind of sends a not so great threshold. However, we still have the scene from the lake in which he fights Annabeth and then, of course, stands his ground. Now, I didn't like that the movie merged Clarice with Annabeth's character, Clarice being the bully that Percy Jackson has in Camp Half-Blood as the favorite daughter of Ares. However, in the TV show, they don't know who Percy's dad is until he fights Clarice, and he then stands his ground against her, finally giving Poseidon a reason to name him as his son, propelling him to a kind of quest that he cannot deny, because he is now the son of Poseidon. It is a more meaningful thing. It is a more kind of like definitive crossing of the threshold. You are now a demigod. It is proven, it is factual. There is no going back. No matter what you do, you cannot go back to your original world. Now, I do like that the TV show has Clarice because she is used as a red herring for the storyline and the possibility of who is the Lightning Thief. I think this is a crucial point into kind of creating the story that is Percy Jackson. Now, after the threshold, it leads us into Act 6, Test, Allies, Enemies. Now, of course, after the no return of being named Poseidon's son, in both versions, Percy Jackson must go on a quest to retrieve the bolts and stop a civil war within the Greek gods for the lightning bolt of Zeus. Now, in the movie, Percy Jackson doesn't get told, oh, you must go on this quest. You know, he is given information that incentivizes the possibility of going on this quest. He wants to save his mom from the underworld, which is his personal goal in all mediums of Percy Jackson. Therefore, he is incentivized to go on this long quest and test his heroism. Now, this is where his allies get shown. Annabeth quickly volunteers for this journey, not really giving Percy an option because she has always wanted to go on a journey or on a quest to prove that she is the fierce warrior that she knows herself to be. Grover, being Percy's oldest and truest friend, he does not want his friend to go into danger by himself and giving him the support he truly needs. Again, not really giving Percy an option to deny Grover to come with him, which is an interesting way that the allies were chosen for him. Now, all three know that they must go to Luke in order to find out how to get back from the underworld, because going to the underworld's the easy part. Getting out is the hard part. And so Luke informs them of the 3 pearls that will allow him to come back from the underworld, where they are located on the map, and it gives a more video game-esque feel. It's the mini games before you get the big bad boss, which is Hades in this scenario. It also puts Luke as a possible ally, and of course his enemies being the monsters that will of course attack him or go after him as he embarks on the real world. However, in the TV show, the journey or quest is quite different. First of all, he is specifically given a quest. This is given to him by the oracles and to his understanding, his own father, that he must retrieve the lightning bolt from Hades, who they suspect to have it due to the fact that Hades has been sending his most loyal monsters after him. So then he is given the opportunity to choose his 2 companions. Why only 2 for such a massive amount of journey? I don't know. But they have a kind of standard of 2 companions to go on a quest with you. Percy chooses Annabeth. Now, the reason that he is given to the audience and to Annabeth why he chooses her is a little questionable, and whether you agree on it or not, he chooses Annabeth because she is skilled-minded in battle, she is forward-thinking in strategy, and he does know that if it comes down to succeeding in this quest or living, that she will choose the quest over Percy Jackson. And in choice, he gives the secondary choice to a polar opposite of that reasoning, which is Grover, his most trusted friend, his friend that he knows won't lie to him, even though he did lie to him for several months to a year. Not gonna get into that, but going forward, he knows that he is regaining Percy's trust, therefore he will not lie to him. He will do everything in his power to save his mom, because Grover is the only person that truly understands how important Percy's mom is to Percy. So that's why he chooses 2 polar opposites companions. That's his reasoning. That's what we get. Take that with what you will. Now we do see Luke and his companionship. As for the reasoning that he does not choose Luke, which has been his loyal friend and companion from the moment he got to Camp Half-Blood, who has been teaching him how to fight, how to defend himself, everything he would need for a journey, and Luke being on the older sides of kids would be a reasonable and understandable choice for a quest as big as not causing civil war within gods. But we are given this reason.
I was afraid. I have a chance to rescue my mom from Hades. I can't let anything stop me. And I'm afraid if it gets in the way of the quest, Annabeth might try to. And you told me you'll always be on her side no matter what, and it's okay.
Take that with what you will. Percy goes off on his journey. Now, differently to the video game style of the movie, we do have where Percy is just going on a long, kind of country-long journey, similar to that of like Lord of the Rings, which is a more traditional journey of a hero. You know, it's the journey to get to your quest, not the quest itself type of scenario. Very famously done in Greek mythology. It's very popular. It is explained that Percy cannot fly directly to the underworld due to Zeus wanting to kill him and the air being his domain. So don't be unsmart. You know what else you could do though? You could use your father's ability of being the god of the sea and speedboating it from the location where you are, which I believe is like New York or kind of the East Coast area, and going all around under Mexico, whatever path you want to take, all the way to California. Now, you could say, well, that's just a long way around and they were on a time crunch. You could, or, you know, gods exist, probability of magic. I think it'd be safer to be in a world where your father completely controls the domain versus going on land where monsters want to kill you. Due to the fact that Zeus wants to kill Percy, Percy must travel through bus, train, basically any method of transportation from the East Coast to the West Coast, where LA is the entrance to the underworld. We then see small little test of heroism. We see time and time again where Percy's knowledge of the Greek world or fighting monsters is taken to account. He must use his strength, his wit, anything to kind of become the better version of himself. Again, this aligns very traditionally with most heroes' journey, not just the actual theory of the hero's journey, but the idea that a journey must entail trials and tribulations, in which the TV show does a good job of it, having a more streamlined trials and tribulations scenario versus the video game version that the movie provides. We also get to see a lot more of who Percy's allies are and who Percy's enemies are, down to even meeting Ares and knowing that they will not be friends. Not gonna happen. But these trials and tribulations actually give all three characters the chance to grow. From Grover discovering that maybe the search for Pan won't be as easy as he had originally idolized, his dream is to go on search for Pan. Or Annabeth knowing that maybe she may have been the best in the Camp Half-Blood, but this is a whole different ballgame, and to keep Percy alive will be definitely much harder than she anticipated. And knowing that maybe it's okay to let down your guard and care for someone other than Luke and her. And well, technically Thalia, but Thalia's a tree now. So it does give her a more rounded perspective of what is important. And maybe being the hero isn't what's important, it's what you do with your actions. It also gives Percy a chance to become the best version of himself, not losing his mom's empathy and heart, but still showing strength and agility to not be afraid to fight monsters when the time arises, and being quick on your feet, knowing that this was what you were meant to do all along. It's a really great journey of development for all three of our main characters. Act Act 7, approaching to the Inmost Cave. This is whether or not your character has failed or succeeded. And I believe in both versions, the movie and the TV show, the moment of kind of failure begins in the Lotus Hotel Casino in Las Vegas. This is definitely where both versions of Percy lose a lot of time due to the alluredness of the lotus flower, and noticing the fact that they are not being aware of their surroundings. The lotus flower, of course, puts a spell on them to want to stay there forever, losing a significant amount of time in their journey. This makes it almost impossible for them to finish out their journey due to this stop in both versions of the adaptation. Before I continue on, I do want to mention that if you are liking this type of video, don't forget to like, subscribe, or even share this video for others to get a perspective of the hero's journey or movies that explore the magic of cinema as my other VFX breakdown videos. Now we've entered into the Valley of the Beast. This is where kind of all hope is lost. In the movie, they go to Hades. Hades states that he wants the bolt. He is kind of a little bit out of his depth in this idea of getting the bolt. He then finds the bolt and has to face off against a god, which he may or may not be equipped for. Luckily for him, Hades' wife interferes, giving him the only out that he can. However, this does give an imperative in which Percy must choose one of his loved ones to leave behind in the underworld. Now, in the movie, they do say that Grover kind of does want to stay in the underworld, you know? But either way, he has to make the difficult decision of leaving one of his companions behind to further the plot and stop, of course, the war between gods. And so he does. Unlike in the TV show, Hades is part of the ordeal, but it's not actually the definitive thing. Hades quite quickly confesses that he didn't want the lightning bolt, he wanted his helmet back, which is how the thief actually even stole the lightning bolt. And he makes a deal with Percy. If he gets his helmet back, he is able to save his mom, making his ordeal and challenge of leaving her behind in the underworld just a little bit longer difficult, but not an impossible choice. The impossible choice was actually facing off against the god of war. Come on now, I know you're a demigod, I know you're supposed to be powerful. He's the god of war! War! Yes, I'm talking about Ares, the man, the myth, the legend. Yes, we had seen him earlier in this television show as a obstacle or trial for Percy, but this was going head to head with the god himself in a battle of all things, a battle. Now, I do like that they make it very much more realistic in the aspect that all Percy has to do is make Ares bleed. It's not really defeating him in a battle, which I don't think, no matter how strong Percy is, he could possibly do. I don't think he's not at that level. He might be further on in the books, but he's definitely not in this current time. Do not agree with that if that were to have ever happened. Luckily, they make it a more reasonable distinction in which he does in fact just have to make him bleed. That in itself will show Ares that Percy means business and he has earned the right to the helmet. Why? Because story. And this is where Percy really shows his strength, his ability to fight, his willingness and wit to outmaneuver even the god of war, which makes a fantastic sequence, my man. But it does give you a worry of, will Percy actually walk out of this or not? Because if he doesn't, he loses his mom forever. There is no going back, there's no nothing. This is the pinnacle of what he has wanted since the beginning of this journey, and we get to see it unfold here and now. And it is a spectacle of beauty, and he in fact does get to save his mom. He does in fact defeat the god of war and is able to return the helm back to Hades getting his mom back. Not really sure if he's gonna do that, because Hades could have changed his mind, but he's giving a faith that his uncle will not betray him so quickly. This allows Percy to go on his way and onto the journey that is the Olympian gods and returning the boat before civil war breaks out. That leads us into Act 9, the reward. The reward in the movie is that Percy Jackson's personal goal is achieved. Percy saved his mom. That's kind of it. The reward in the TV show, after he makes Ares bleed and is able to present the helm back to one of Hades' minions, mainly the Fury, he is able to save his mom. With this, he's also able to return the lightning bolt to Zeus, stopping a civil war within the gods. He has achieved his goal. He has restored his family and his love, successfully stopped his loved ones and new friends from going into an all-out war for each other, as well as a different reward that he didn't fully expect, which was getting to meet Poseidon. And even though it was a quick little chat, he was able to interact with his father and for the first time meet his father, which is a great achievement. For Act 10, The Road Back, in the movie, Percy has the bolt and his mom is ready to finish the quest, in the sense that he hasn't really already given the bolt back to Zeus. He is on his pathway home because he's already met the achievement of going to the underworld, coming back, saving his mom, holding the bolt. So his road home is actually going to Olympus and ending the civil war before it begins. However, in the TV show, Percy's quest is already finished. He comes back to Camp Half-Blood as a hero. He stopped the gods from civil war. He is a demigod among demigods. He is a huge influence and has this sort of ambiance of strength that was not there before. It really is a true symbolism of the road back home. Now for Act 11 is the Revelation. Now the Revelation is kind of the final battle. It's this idea that you have to overcome one thing. You thought the journey was done. You thought I did what I was supposed to do. I'm good. I'm supposed to relax, lay back, be all good. And this final battle does occur. Now the funny thing is, the final battle in and of itself is the same in both mediums, both the movie and the TV show. It's the fight against Luke. However, in the movie, Percy hasn't finished his quest to return the bolt, and it is more that Luke is stopping him from doing this to create civil war within the gods. In fact, in the movie, this act is very similar to that of the act of the TV show, which was Ares stopping Percy from going and returning the lightning bolt to Zeus. But in the TV show, this structure was more closely related to the earlier act of Act 8, the Ordeal. This was more of the belly of the beast, the oh my gosh, is Percy really gonna walk out of it, rather than where the movie has it as a revelation, a reveal of the final battle that is to end this hero's journey. And of course, Percy is able to take on Luke and show his true strength. As in the TV show, Percy already knows his strength. He doesn't need to fight at Luke's level. And in fact, in this revelation, it does show that Percy had an enemy in someone he called a friend, which was Luke, but also that Luke has valid points, and maybe he should be fighting alongside Luke and not against him. However, everything that he has learned up to this point has caused him to reevaluate what he believes is a good parent. He has the loyalty and love of his father, which is what he was rewarded with. He has the love of his mother, who knows he loves his father, who is a god. He is very much on the sense of righteousness being with the gods rather than the titans, as Luke perceives. So he fights Luke not to defeat his enemy and finish his quest, but to protect those in Camp Half-Blood from not joining Luke and not creating another civil war within themselves. He is literally having to stop what he just had to stop in this battle and this revelation. It also enhances the friendship between Annabeth and Percy, because Annabeth must choose between who she considered a brother, her only family, to now one of her best friends. And she ends up siding with, of course, the factuals of the gods, even though her journey and her arc was to kind of see maybe the gods aren't perfect, but we are to decide our own fate. And she finally does. She stops listening to those around her and makes her choice of choosing Percy as an ally. And Percy, of course, battling it out with Luke, then knowing that there is more to come, and the fact that this is definitely not over in any sense of the way. Act 12, return with the Elixir. So this is the idea that the hero has truly returned back. The quest has fully ended. There are no more battles. He has learned all he needs to learn. He has done all he needs to do. And this is the conclusion of his story. In the movie, Percy now knows who he is and where he belongs, which is actually Camp Half-Blood. He has already returned the ball to Zeus. He has already met with his father. He gets to live a life of peacefulness in Camp Half-Blood. However, the TV show does a different perspective in which all three characters not only have finished out their quest and have defeated all of their enemies, even the unsuspecting ones, but they are now going off to join and earn their reward. Seeing that Annabeth could be wrong about someone in the perspective of someone, her not liking Percy and then becoming his closest friend, gives her an opportunity to change her mind about her father and see what the school year may bring in the regular world. And a trip to Disney World wouldn't hurt nobody. As for Percy, he gets to go on this adventure of getting to be with his mom without any interruptions of his own world, as if he knows. Right? He's already defeated almost every enemy that he has. There is no reason for Hades to come after him. They've kind of set up a sort of treaty kind of situation, so it's safer for him to, of course, go out into the real world and come back to Camp Half-Blood in the next summer to continue training. Grover gets to finally search for Pan, his final journey into becoming the satyr that he wants to be. He gets to go and search for Pan. And so his lone journey begins. All of our heroes, in fact, get what they originally wanted from the beginning of this story. It becomes full circle. It has a closing loop, but it does hint to further adventures, which I think is one of the smartest tactical things to do in storytelling. So comment down below, which is your favorite version of Percy Jackson and the Lightning Bolt Thief? Is it the movie where they aged up the characters and had a more teenager vibe for the times? Or is it the new adaptation of the TV show on Disney Plus, where it stays a little bit more true to the book, however still changing it for a modern audience? Or are you a diehard fan of the books, and the book is the one and true storyline of your hero's journey? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like videos like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. So don't forget to check out our community tab for updates and polls of future videos. And if you want to see my thoughts on how both the movie and the TV show compared to the actual adaptation from book to screen, don't forget to check out my podcast that I do with my cousin Tiger on Page to Frame. The link will be down below in the descriptions. Thank you guys for watching, and stay magical, my fellow VFX mages.